Everywhere I turn lately, I keep hearing the same declaration. 2026 is the year of the narcissistic collapse. And every time I hear it, I think, what does that actually mean? Does a calendar suddenly make every narcissistic person fall apart? Does every person who has manipulated, controlled, deceived, or harmed another person finally get exposed? Does the mask come off all at once and the entire world suddenly become balanced? No, that's not how psychology works. And I'm not here to sell you a prophecy dressed up as a diagnosis, but I do believe something is happening. I believe people are recognizing patterns they could not name before. I believe behavior that used to hide behind charm, authority, status, religion, family loyalty, romance, and social approval is becoming harder to excuse. And I believe people are asking better questions. And the systems that depend on our silence, confusion, overgiving, and self doubt are beginning to shake. Maybe 2026 is not the year every narcissistic person collapses. Maybe it's the year the mask stops working. And if the mask is falling, we need to understand what we are seeing. Because this conversation is bigger than one ex, one marriage, one family member or friendship or workplace, or one political party. This is about pattern, and it's about power without accountability, image without integrity, attention without connection, and control without love. Most importantly, it's about what happens when we stop participating.
Welcome to Awakened Her, where women step into their power. No permission, just your mission. It's time to get up, girl.
Betrayed, abused, rejected, forgotten, for every woman who thought she lost herself. Welcome back to Awakened Her, the place where women break generational patterns, step into their power, and rewrite legacy. I'm Holly Key, and today we are beginning a 3-part series about narcissistic collapse, toxic relationships, dynamics, betrayal, self-trust, and what it means to rise as a whole woman. We are well into 2026 now, the year people have been calling the narcissistic collapse. And before I start teaching, I want to ask you something. How are you? No, really. How are you doing? Have you watched certain masks fall this year? Have you recognized patterns in relationships, families, friendships, workplaces, institutions, or even within yourself that you can no longer unsee? Because I know I have. And I recently heard someone describe celibacy as a kind of force field against narcissistic people. Now, I would not call it a guaranteed shield, because manipulation does not only enter through sex or romance. A controlling person can enter your life as a partner, friend, relative, employer, spiritual leader, or a business connection. Now, you may say, Holly, that's a little too much, it's making my stomach hurt. But I want you to understand where I'm going with this. But I understood what he meant. When celibacy is freely chosen, not forced by fear, shame, or avoidance, it can remove one powerful source of leverage. When you are no longer searching for sexual validation, romantic attention, or someone to choose you, you become less willing to bargain against your own intuition just to preserve a connection. You can slow down more, you can observe, and you can ask, is this person listening to me? Or are they only attracted to what they hope to receive from me? Do their words and behavior agree? Do I feel peaceful around them? Or am I constantly trying to earn security? Now, I'm not becoming colder, I'm becoming clearer. In my own season of celibacy, my energy did not disappear. It began to move into my healing, creativity, my podcast, music, books, my business, and the woman I was becoming. Celibacy will not be every woman's assignment, and I'm not here to place shame around healthy sexuality. But for some women, this season may not be a rejection or a punishment. It may be recalibration. I love that word. The point is that our desire for connection cannot be allowed to negotiate our standards, our silence, our intuition, or choose our relationships for us. Before we go any further, I want to make something very clear. Narcissism does not belong to one gender. Men can carry narcissistic traits. Women can carry narcissistic traits. A parent, partner, adult child, friend, employer, religious leader, public figure, or any organization that can operate through patterns of control or entitlement, manipulation, image management. This is not going to be an episode where we declare men are the problem and women are automatically innocent. It is also not a license to diagnose everybody who hurt your feelings. I am not a psychologist, and this podcast is not a substitute for professional mental health care. I am a woman who has lived, studied, listened, healed, observed patterns, and learned how important it is to put accurate language around experiences that leave people doubting their own reality. For the first 24 episodes of this podcast, many of you have watched me heal in real time. You saw tears, you saw questions, and you saw me work through grief, betrayal, disappointment, identity, faith, family, relationships, purpose, and the process of coming home to myself. I do not regret one honest moment of that journey. But Awakened Her is entering a new season. I do not want you only to watch me heal. I want to help you understand how to heal. I want to take what I have lived and what I am learning and what I continue to research and turn it into language you can use. And I want you to leave these episodes with more than emotion. I want you to leave with recognition, discernment, and something practical that you can do next. That is the movement of this series. And today, we're going to recognize what narcissistic collapse can mean clinically, relationally, culturally. And in part 2, we're going into betrayal, intermediate reinforcement, and the reason anxiety can feel like chemistry. Then in part 3, we stop studying the person who hurt us and we start rebuilding the woman who survived. We are putting on our hats, we're reclaiming our gifts, and becoming the chief executive officers of our own lives. And apparently, in my case, that also means holding all staff meetings by myself because I'm the podcast host, the writer, the producer, filming department, editing department, marketing department, a realtor, a songwriter, author, founder, household operations, mother, and Zeffy's personal assistant. And recently, someone came to help me understand some of my podcast equipment. And as we talked, he began realizing how many different things I had taught myself to do and how quickly I had learned them. And he looked at me and said, "You are doing the work of 10 people. I do not know how you're doing all of this or how you learned it so quickly. And I laughed because sometimes you don't recognize your own capacity until somebody outside your life reflects it back to you. But that reflection also gave me correction. Being capable of holding 10 positions does not mean I have to hold all 10 at the same second. I can be a multidimensional woman without presenting every dimension in every room. When I step forward as a realtor, my client deserves a fully present realtor. When I sit behind this microphone, you deserve a fully present podcast host. And when I write music or lead a business or care for my home or love my family, I can move into that role intentionally. Focus does not require me to amputate my gifts. It requires me to direct them. That is part of the new awakened her. We are not shrinking into one approved lane. We are learning how to occupy every lane that generally belongs to us without becoming divided inside ourselves. But we are going to save that full hack collection for part 3. Today, we begin with a mask. The word narcissist is everywhere right now. It is on TikToks, it's on lives, it's on YouTube titles, therapy conversation, support groups, comments, podcasts, books, and everyday arguments. Somebody lies, and we call them a narcissist. Somebody refuses to commit, and we call them a narcissist. Whether it's someone being selfish, emotionally unavailable, arrogant, immature, controlling, or simply incompatible with us, we tend to reach for the same label. Sometimes the behavior may generally reflect narcissistic traits, and sometimes it may be part of a narcissistic personality disorder. It may be emotionally immaturity, insecurity, trauma, poor communication, entitlement, avoidance, addiction, selfishness, or plain bad behavior. The label matters clinically because a diagnosis belongs in the hand of a qualified professional. But your boundary does not require diagnosis. Let me say that again in a different way. You do not have to win a courtroom case inside your own mind before you are allowed to decide that a pattern is unhealthy for you. Now, I am not sitting here pretending that I have every part of this mastered. I'm only speaking from what I lived and what I had to get back up from. So going deeper, narcissistic personality disorder is recognized as a mental health condition. It involves a persistent pattern that can include an exaggerated sense of importance, a strong need for admiration, entitlement, exploration, difficulty recognizing other people's needs and feelings, and a self-esteem structure that may be far more fragile than the confident exterior suggests. That last part is important. What looks like enormous confidence may actually require constant protection. The person may need to remain superior, correct, admired, desired, envied, or controlled because anything that challenges that identity that they have constructed feels intolerable. All human beings can become defensive. All of us can want attention. All of us can behave selfishly, fail to listen, protect our pride, or make a moment about ourselves. Having a narcissistic moment does not automatically mean someone has a personality disorder. The question is not whether someone has ever behaved badly. The question is whether there is a constant pattern, whether the pattern causes harm, whether the person accepts the responsibility, and whether meaningful change follows the apology. That's the big one. Because an apology without change behavior is not repair. It may only be the reset button that restarts the same cycle. And this is where women can lose years. We hear the apology and attach it to the potential. We listen to the promise and temporarily stop evaluating the pattern. We fall in love with who the person says they are becoming while continuing to live with who they repeatedly choose to be. And please hear me. This can happen in any gender combination and in relationships that are not romantic. A mother can keep an adult daughter trapped in guilt. A daughter can punish a mother through withdrawal. A friend can require constant loyalty while offering none. And a leader can demand admiration and call disagreement betrayal. And a workplace can celebrate a public image while privately surviving through fear, scapegoating, and exhaustion. And that is why I want us to learn the behavior without becoming addicted to the label. If your entire healing journey becomes proven that another person is a narcissist, they are still at the center of your life. They may be gone physically, yet your energy is still organized around studying them. Information is supposed to return you to yourself. It should help you recognize 4 things: the pattern, make a decision, protect your well-being, and move forward. It should not become another room where you remain emotionally trapped with a person who hurt you. The goal is not to become an expert on them. The goal is to become trustworthy to you. So, what is a narcissistic collapse? It is not a separate diagnosis. It is a term used to describe what may happen when the identity of a person depends upon what can no longer be maintained in the same way. Their source of admiration changes, their authority is challenged, the behavior is exposed. A partner leaves, their status drops. They experience failure, criticism, rejection, aging, loss of control, or reality they cannot force other people to deny. And when the protected image is threatened, the reaction can look very different from person to person. Some may rage, some may attack credibility of whoever challenged them. Some may withdraw, become depressed, or disappear. Some may present themselves as the victim. Some may recruit other people to reinforce the versions of events. And some may suddenly offer the apology, affection, commitment, or change, not necessarily because transformation occurred, but because access and control are slipping away. None of those reactions alone proves a diagnosis. What they reveal is how a person responds when they no longer control the image, the attention, or the outcome. Healthy people can be hurt by criticism. Healthy people can become defensive, ashamed, or overwhelmed. The difference is not perfection. The difference is the capacity to reflect, accept responsibility, and care about the impact. Tolerate another person's reality and participate in repair. When somebody cannot do that, every boundary can feel like an attack. Every disagreement can become disrespect. And every independent decision can become disloyalty. Every consequence can be reframed as persecution. And when you spent years trying to keep that person emotionally stable, their collapse may initially feel like your emergency. It is not. You can care about another human without volunteering to become the one that holds up an identity built on your silence. That does not mean becoming cold. It does not mean retaliating. And it does not mean publicly humiliating people. diagnosing them online, or trying to produce their collapse. It means allowing truth and consequences to exist without rushing in to rescue somebody from the result of their own repeated choices. For women who were trained to keep the peace, this can feel pretty cruel at first. We may have learned that love means explaining one more time, giving one more opportunity, absorbing one more insult, accepting one more excuse, lending one more dollar, one more late night message, or helping somebody feel better about the pain they caused us. But peace that requires your disappearance is not peace. It is compliance. And sometimes the collapse is not the person collapsing, it's the arrangement collapsing. The relationship can no longer operate according to the old rules because one participant has stopped carrying both sides. Imagine a relationship in which one person has always managed the emotional climate. She knows when to bring up a concern and when to swallow it. She knows which version of the truth will be tolerated. She knows how long the silent treatment usually lasts, which apology will restore the temporary peace, and how to make the other person feel admired enough that the evening remains calm. That sounds familiar, huh? Then one day she stops performing that job. She doesn't scream. She doesn't threaten. She simply tells the truth without cushioning it. She says, "This pattern is not healthy for me, and I will no longer participate in it." The other person may say she has changed. They may call her cold, selfish, difficult, disrespectful, ungrateful, or influenced by somebody else. And technically, they are correct about one thing. She has changed. She is no longer using her nervous system as a public utility. And girl, I've learned this one from experience, and I pulled that energy back. Now, I can laugh about this now, but a long time ago I couldn't. The conflict that follows does not automatically mean the boundary was wrong. Sometimes the conflict is simply the sound of an old arrangement that it makes when it no longer receives automatic cooperation. And that brings us to the larger meaning of this moment. When I say I believe the world is experiencing a narcissistic correction, I am not diagnosing a country, a political party, a church, or a generation, or the planet. A culture cannot walk into a therapist's office and receive a personality disorder diagnosis. I am talking about recognizing patterns, image over truth, loyalty over accountability, performance over integrity, domination over service, winning over wisdom, attention over substance, and chaos that keeps everybody emotionally reactive while the people benefiting from the chaos remain protected. We have seen those patterns in families, in relationships, in businesses, entertainment, religion, politics, social media, and institutions that were more invested in protecting their reputation than protecting the people inside them. For a long time, many of those systems survived because people did not have the language for what they were experiencing. They knew something felt wrong, but they had been taught to mistrust that knowing. They were told they were too sensitive, too emotional, too demanding, too rebellious, too unforgiving or independent, or not spiritual enough. Now people are learning words such as gaslighting, coercive control, love bombing, breadcrumbing, trauma bonding, emotional regulation, boundaries, nervous system activation, and generational patterns. Not every popular term is used accurately, and we are going to clean up some of that throughout this series. But language can still be liberating. When you can name a pattern, you can observe it instead of automatically becoming consumed by it. When you can observe it, you can make a choice. And when enough people make a different choice, the system must change or reveal what it was always built on. This is the collapse I believe many of us are sensing. There is also an important difference between a mask and a hat. A mask manufactures or conceals identity. A hat represents a role you intentionally enter. The mask says, I need you to believe I am somebody my consistent behavior cannot support. The hat says, this is a responsibility I'm carrying in this moment. You can remove a hat and remain yourself. A healthy identity does not disappear when the title, relationships, audience, income, beauty, authority, or applause changes. The role matters, but your humanity is not dependent upon everybody agreeing to reflect the role back to you. A mask is different. When identity depends upon control of the reflection, disagreement becomes dangerous. Exposure becomes intolerable. The person does not only want to be respected, they may need the reality itself to cooperate with the image. That is why this conversation is not merely about spotting arrogant people. It is about learning whether the connection allows the truth to exist. Can both people have a perspective? Can the powerful be questioned? Can a mistake be admitted without somebody else being punished for noticing it? Can love survive honestly? If the answer is no, the image may be receiving more protection than the relationship. It does not mean every harmful person will be publicly exposed. It does not mean every betrayal will receive an apology. It does not mean justice will arrive according to our timeline. And it doesn't mean that suddenly every available partner will be emotionally healthy and every woman who has done her healing will be rewarded with a perfect relationship by December. Healing is not a vending machine. You do not insert therapy, prayer, journaling, boundaries, and self-love, and then wait for the universe to dispense your preferred person, although that would be nice. The balance begins inside the choice we control. It begins when we stop confusing access with entitlement. When a title no longer makes somebody unquestionable. When family loyalty no longer requires lying about family harm. When religious language no longer exempts character. It begins when romantic chemistry no longer outranks emotional safety. And lastly, when we stop abandoning ourselves to preserve an arrangement that is already destroying us. This is where culture conversation becomes personal, because every system, no matter how large, is sustained through individual participation. Somebody agrees to keep the secret, agrees to keep cleaning up the consequences. Somebody keeps performing happiness, keeps funding the dysfunction, returning after the promise, and also keeps accepting confusion as the price of connection. Sometimes the most disruptive thing a woman can do is become clear. Not loud for the sake of being loud, not cruel, not vengeful, clear. She stops debating what the pattern has already demonstrated. She stops requiring the person who confused her to become the source of her clarity. She states the boundary, honors it, and allows the response to provide additional information. That is when the old arrangement starts losing its power. There's a woman listening to me right now who is asking, whether her relationship is bad enough to justify how tired she feels. She is not sure whether the person is a narcissist. She has watched videos, read articles, taken quizzes, listened to podcasts, and compared the list of traits. Some descriptions fit perfectly, others do not. The person can be loving, generous, funny, spiritual, hardworking, or deeply wounded. There are beautiful moments. There are explanations for the behavior. There may even be sincere love. And yet, she is chronically confused. She does not know where she stands. Her needs keep becoming evidence against her. She prepares for conversations as if she is presenting a legal case. She edits her tone before she speaks. She studies the other person's mood before deciding whether she is allowed to have one of her own. She keeps reducing the request until it's small enough not to even trigger resistance. And then she wonders why she feels invisible. If that woman is you, I'm not going to diagnose your partner through a microphone. I am going to ask you to notice what the relationship is producing in you. Are you becoming more grounded, more honest, more secure, and more fully yourself? Or are you becoming smaller, more anxious, more confused, and increasingly dependent upon brief moments of reassurance? You do not need to call somebody evil to admit that the dynamic is hurting you. You do not need to erase every good memory to acknowledge the pattern. You do not have to prove malice intent to respond to a harmful impact. And you do not need to keep waiting for a label to give you permission to trust what your body and your mind and your life have been telling you. Next week, we're going deeply into the hot and cold relationship, the emotional roller coasters that keep you asking whether somebody loves you or whether you are too needy, whether you're asking for too much, and why the return of their attention can feel more powerful than constant affection ever did. There is real psychology underneath that experience. Unpredictable reinforcement can intensify preoccupation. Relief can be mistaken for intimacy. Anxiety can be mistaken for chemistry. A nervous system that has learned to associate love with uncertainty may not immediately recognize calm as connection. But I want to make one point today. Your confusion is not proof of the relationship's depth. Sometimes confusion is simply what happens when words and behaviors refuse to match. You can spend years searching for the perfect interpretation of an inconsistent person, or you can decide that consistency is one of the requirements for access to your life. That's not being demanding. That is being discerning. And for many women, the moment that finally breaks the illusion is betrayal. Betrayal can arrive through infidelity, deception, financial secrecy, divided loyalty, a broken promise, a hidden life, public humiliation, family abandonment, friendship betrayal, or the realization that the future someone sold you was never going to be built behind the scenes. My own awakening was triggered by betrayal. I'm not going to use this platform to diagnose another person or publicly tell a story that's not mine alone to tell. But I can speak about what betrayal awakened inside of me. It forced me to confront the distance between what I hoped was true and what the pattern was showing me. It made me examine the places where I wanted another person's commitment to confirm my value. It made me look at the times I had heard my own intuition and then argued against it because I wanted a different answer. Their betrayal was their responsibility. Where I had to stop trusting myself became my responsibility to heal. That distinction matters. Self-reflection must never become self-blame. You did not make another person lie. You did not cause them to deceive, manipulate, cheat, exploit, disappear, or withhold. You do not become responsible for somebody else's character simply because, looking back, you can now see signs you missed or minimized. Sometimes people say, you knew better, as if knowing and being ready to act are always the same thing. They are not. Hope, attachment, financial dependency, children, faith, fear, isolation, conditioning, and the cycle of harm and reconciliation can make leaving complicated. So we will not shame the woman who stayed. We will help her become safe enough, supported enough, and clear enough to choose differently when she can. And at the same time, we will not confuse compassion with powerlessness. There comes a point in healing when we have to stop asking only, why did they do that to me? And begin asking, what do I need to understand, strengthen, and change so I do not keep negotiating against myself? Not because we caused the betrayal, because we deserve to become trustworthy guardians of our own lives. I will never call another person's mistreatment a gift. I will not tell you that God or the universe had to send somebody to break you so you could learn. Harm is harm, and accountability belongs where it belongs. But I do believe redemption allows us to refuse to waste what the experience revealed. The person was not the healer. Your decision to face what surfaced, that's where the healing begins. You can tell the truth about the damage and still grow beyond it. You can grieve what happened without building your identity around being the one it happened to. You can stop rehearsing the blame without rewriting history to protect the person who harmed you. The betrayal may have awakened you, but it does not get to author the woman you become next. This brings me to the woman who is single right now and quietly wondering what is wrong with her. She sees engagements, anniversaries, families, photographs, date night posts, and people announcing that they finally found their person. She sees other women entertaining relationships while she keeps meeting people who offer attention but not intention, attraction but not accountability, chemistry but not commitment. And somewhere inside, the question begins forming, why am I not being chosen? Girl, confirm yourself. Pick yourself. That does not mean pretending that you never desire partnership. It does not mean becoming so independent that nobody can love you. It does not mean calling loneliness weakness or using wholesomeness as armor. It means another person's commitment is no longer the certificate that proves your value. I am single, and I can say that without whispering, apologizing, or presenting it as a problem awaiting repair. I believe love is still a part of my story. I believe my person is coming. But I am not standing in an empty life waiting for a man to arrive and switch the power on. My life is already alive. And I am building, I am creating, I am returning to real estate with authority. I am hosting this podcast. I am writing books. I'm releasing music, and I am developing Awakened Her. I am learning to move between my different roles and becoming fully present in each one without believing I must reduce myself to one lane. I'm building my queendom, and I hope you do too. Because wholesomeness is not having only one identity. Wholesomeness is remaining connected to yourself inside of every identity you carry. And self-love does not guarantee that unhealthy people will stop approaching you. They may still approach. Confidence is not an invisible fence that only emotional healthy people can cross. Unfortunately, self-love changes access. It changes how long inconsistency is entertained, whether charm can overrule character, or whether attention is automatically interpreted as intention. It changes whether you abandon your own pace to secure someone else's interest, or auditioning for a role in a life that has not made room for the real you. The purpose of healing is not becoming more attractive so somebody finally chooses you. The purpose is to become so fully yourself that you never abandon her again. When love arrives, let it meet a woman who is already living. Let it meet a woman with interest and standards, friendships, faith, purpose, laughter, work, rest, creativity, and most of all, a voice. Let partnership become a choice, not a rescue. Be chosen by you first. Before we close, I want to give you something practical to carry into this week. Think of one relationship, a family dynamic, a friendship, workplace, or institution that regularly leaves you questioning yourself. Do not begin by diagnosing the person. Begin by observing the pattern. Ask yourself whether the words and behavior consistently agree. Notice what happens when you say no. Ask for clarity, express a need, disagree respectfully, or make an independent decision. Pay attention to whether accountability produces change or only a temporary performance. And then look honestly at who you are becoming inside that environment. You do not need to answer every question tonight. You are not required to make a dramatic decision before this episode ends. Awareness is not weakness, simply because action takes time. But write down what you know before fear, charm, guilt, loneliness, or somebody else's reaction edits it. Maybe the answer is not dramatic. Maybe you notice that every serious conversation ends with you apologizing for bringing it up. Maybe the person's words are beautiful, but their behavior keeps you waiting. Maybe you're praised in public and diminished in private. Or your no is technically accepted, and yet you are punished emotionally for giving it. Do you keep receiving explanations when what you need is change? Write the pattern without arguing either side. Do not prosecute them. Do not defend them. Note what happened, what was said, what followed, and how often it repeats. Clarity becomes easier when facts are allowed to remain facts. Clarity begins when you stop asking confusion to testify against itself. There is a verse in Matthew that says, "By their fruit you will recognize them." Not by the title, not by the speech, or the promise, the chemistry, charisma, social following, bank account, family name, or future they described. Fruit is pattern. Fruit is what repeatedly grows from the life. And that standard applies to all of us. If this episode brought language to something you've been living, share it with a woman who's been blaming herself for somebody else's pattern. Do not send it to diagnose or attack another person. Send it to help somebody return to herself. And if this conversation helped you see something more clearly, take 1 second to like this episode, subscribe to the channel, and share it with a woman who needs it. It is completely free, and it helps build this channel. Thank you. And I want to say a prayer before we go. Father God, I pray for the woman listening today who has been questioning her worth, doubting what she knows, or carrying responsibility that was never hers to carry. Father, I pray that you bring clarity where there has been confusion. Restore the self-trust that betrayal tried to take from her. Give her the courage to honor what you are showing her, and the wisdom to recognize the healthy fruit, and the strength to choose peace without abandoning herself. Remind her that she's already seen and already loved and never required to earn her value through suffering. Father, we just thank you in the name of Jesus that you are doing a mighty work. And we thank you for this message that you've given us today, and that it will be able to be told in the next couple of series. And just thank you for it right now, Father. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. I want you to remember until next time, the mask may be falling, but your job is not to stand underneath it and let it crush you. Step back, see clearly, choose wisely, and stay awake. Keep breaking those cycles. Step into your power and rewrite your legacy. Before I go, I want to leave you with a short little preview of my upcoming single called Emerging. It's releasing on September the 6th, and you can pre-save it now through the link that I will have listed below in the description. Because, girl, you are not disappearing. You are emerging. Confirm yourself, pick yourself, and be chosen by you. I see you. I am you. And this is Awakened Her with Holly Key. Until next time, be blessed.